Hello everybody and welcome to my video lecture on the German Wars of Unification. If you've ever caught yourself wondering, how did Germany become a country? Well, stick around. I'll explain it to you in just a couple minutes. So what you're looking at here is the map of Central Europe, okay? So this is how Central Europe looked from 1815 to 1866. And the first thing you might notice is, well, where's Germany? Germany did not exist during this time period. Instead, what we have here, it's a loose association of 39 German-speaking states. It was called the German Confederation. It was established in 1815 after the final defeat of Napoleon. And what's important to realize about the German Confederation, it was actually led by Austria. If you look down at the bottom, in pink is Austria. And so at the top, we have Prussia. These two German states are going to become central to our story here going forward. So the first thing that you have to understand about Central Europe during this time period is that there were these intense feelings of nationalism. And within the German-speaking lands in particular, they were intense because the German-speaking peoples did not have a singular unified state like something like France, right? And so there was this desire to bring together the various German-speaking states into a single nation state. However, there were two main ideas on how this should or would be accomplished. The first one is called the Greater German Solution, which involved unifying all German-speaking lands, including Austria, which one thing that you have to remember about Austria is Austria was a massive empire that included many, many different ethnic and linguistic groups besides the German Austrian people. And so the Greater German Solution wanted to absorb the rest of the German-speaking states into the existing Austrian Empire to create a Greater Germany. The other proposal for German unification, and the one that actually came to pass, was the Lesser German Solution, which advocated for unification without Austria, focusing on unifying the German states under Prussian leadership. So this conception of Germany would be all of the German-speaking peoples of Europe, besides the ones in Austria, would be unified under strong Prussian leadership. And so one of the most prominent supporters of the Lesser German Solution was a man named Otto von Bismarck. And Bismarck became the Prime Minister of Prussia in 1862, which is important because the Prime Minister makes the foreign policy decisions and is essentially the head of state of the Kingdom of Prussia. And so Bismarck wanted to unify the German-speaking lands except Austria under Prussian leadership because that would strengthen Prussia, it would elevate Prussia's position within Europe, it would bring political stability to the region, and it would satisfy that nationalist passion for a unified Germany. And so how did Bismarck plan to unify the German-speaking peoples? Well, he was very explicit about it. And so this comes from one of his speeches where he says, quote, "The position of Prussia in Germany will not be determined by its liberalism, but its power. Not through speeches and majority decisions will the great questions of the day be decided, but by iron and blood, durch Eisen und Blut." And so Bismarck, being the foreign policy genius that he was, realized that the only way for Prussia to increase its prestige and establish itself as the dominant German-speaking power in Europe was to defeat Austria on the battlefield. So with that in mind, Bismarck was looking for an opportunity to engage in a war with Austria, and he was waiting for an opportunity to present itself. And so what I'm going to show you now is the origins of what's called the Austro-Prussian War by a YouTuber named the Armchair Historian. And so I'll go ahead and let that play.
A conflict arose when Denmark claimed sovereignty over both Schleswig and Holstein, causing Prussia and Austria to declare war and ultimately emerge victorious. As a result, Prussia gained control of Schleswig, while Austria acquired Holstein. However, tensions mounted as Austrian access to Holstein was throttled by Prussian bureaucracy, leading to further conflicts. In 1866, Prussian troops occupied Holstein, sparking a war with Austria and the majority of the German Confederation, who backed them. The Italians, also seeking to unify their own peninsula, joined the conflict by declaring war on Austria just 5 days later. Within a mere 2 months, Prussia achieved a resounding victory over Austria, annexing significant portions of northern German territory and establishing the North German Confederation.
Right, so the North German Confederation was established in 1867 after Prussia defeated Austria in the Austro-Prussian War, and it was a union of 22 of the North German states. However, this time, this confederation was under Prussian leadership. So this meant that Bismarck's dream of a unified Germany under Prussian leadership was almost complete. However, if you look at the map in yellow, those southern German states were not part of the North German Confederation. Those would be Baden, Württemberg, and Bavaria. And so Bismarck needed to find a way to convince them to join into a greater Germany. And so Bismarck was very intelligent because he realized the best way to get people to unify is in defense against a common enemy. And so when the opportunity arose in 1870 for Bismarck to actually provoke a war, but make it look like it was France that was the aggressor, that was the opportunity that he needed to stimulate the defensive nationalism of the southern German states. And as we'll see, Bismarck essentially played the French right into his hands. So how exactly did this happen? Well, in 1868, there was a revolution in Spain where the Queen Isabel II was deposed and Spain was looking for a new monarch. The Spanish Parliament offered the throne to Leopold. He was a distant relative of the Prussian king. And this greatly upset France because France did not want a Prussian on the throne to their east and to their west. So what ended up happening next was that the French ambassador met with King Wilhelm of Prussia, requesting that Wilhelm ensure him that no Prussian would ever again seek the Spanish throne. Wilhelm, the King of Prussia, politely declined and sent a telegram to Bismarck describing his interaction with the French ambassador. So what Bismarck did, he realized that this was his moment to provoke a war with France that he knew that he would win. And so what he did was he took that telegram and he edited it to make it seem as though both parties had grievously insulted each other. So what that did was it made the Prussians angry that the French ambassador would speak that way to their king, and it made the French absolutely furious that their ambassador had been so insulted by the Prussian king. And so what ended up happening was French people were demanding, they were in the streets demanding that Emperor Napoleon III, right, who's on screen right now, declare war on Prussia. And so Napoleon III had no choice but to cave to public pressure and declare war on Prussia in 1870. And this foreign aggression was exactly what Bismarck needed to get the southern German states on his side. And so the southern German states joined Prussia in their war against France, and after the war against France, they unified together. And so that unification was made official here after the Franco-Prussian War. Let me just say, I don't have time to get into the Franco-Prussian War. This video is long enough as is, but suffice it to say, the Prussians soundly defeated the French and they surrendered. And now what you're looking at in this painting is the proclamation of the German Empire, which unified all of the German-speaking lands in Europe, besides Austria, into a powerful, and I mean incredibly powerful, new political entity under the leadership of Prussia. And so, right, this is the Palace of Versailles, and King Wilhelm of Prussia was proclaimed the German Emperor, or the Kaiser. And last but not least, this is how the German borders looked in 1871 when they unified under Prussia. And so this is how the German borders would stay until 1918 and the destruction of the German Empire after the First World War. One more thing I want to end on. The resentment and the anger that the French felt after their defeat in the Franco-Prussian War was one of the contributing factors to World War I. The French wanted revenge against Prussia, now Germany, for their humiliating defeat. And so this is, at least for the German and French perspective, a little bit of a prelude to the First World War. And thank you for watching.